Hi, everybody. Today I have a truly important message to convey. And that is if everybody who cares about animal welfare, about the planet, about sustainability, about health, stopped eating animal foods, we would eventually only be left with industries determining what we get to eat, with industrially produced degenerative food. Why is that? Who loses in that scenario is the small farmer who does make an effort to do things differently, who's trying to work in a regenerative way, to regenerate the soil, and through the soil, all life, because all life depends on soil. But in order to do truly regenerative farming, this farmer needs to include animals, at least in most contexts in this world. Maybe there are very concrete cases where you can do it without owning animals, including animals, but depending really on the type of terrain, on the location, on the climate, on the accessibility, on the amount of surface that you are working and trying to regenerate, you do need animals. Actually, plants and animals evolve together and they still need each other, even though these days we no longer have the wild animals and it's more the farmed animals that we have to use in the best meaning of that term in order to do the work that is no longer done by big herds of wild animals. And we can do so in a way that is respectful and ethical. And imagine that this kind of farmer is doing that, but you only buy his plant produce. You are not supporting him totally. This farmer too needs to make a living because he's investing all his time and energy. And he usually doesn't have a big cushion of savings on his bank account to allow him to just do all of it for fun. And so if we only partially support him or not at all support him because we buy in the supermarket, eventually he will go out of business, as most small-scale farmers do, unfortunately. And if they go out of business, what are we left with? Well, just the big-scale factory farmed type of food production, both for plants and for animals, with their rather degenerative practices that kill life and degenerate the soils, and with that all life. So in that scenario, we will eventually only be left with industries. But there's of course another way we could do things, and that is, instead of focusing on the food category, instead of making it plant versus animal, we could make it about the quality of our whole food system, independent of its category. We could make it all about regeneration and use our voting power, the power of our money, where we put it, to support and shape that kind of food system that we actually want. And that would be truly regenerative for the land, for the animals, for the people, for local economy. And so in that kind of scenario, we would know our farmer and support those people who are truly making an effort to do things in a good way. But we would support them not just selectively, we would support all of them. And even if things are not yet perfect today, as most of the time they are not, because we are already immersed in an industrial food system, and legislation is adapted to that rather than to the needs of the small farmers. So certain things like the right to slaughter at your own farm, which would be much less stressful for the animals, is not legal these days. But if we support the farmers who are doing things in the right way, we over time give them more power again. Because if more people see that they can actually make a living from that, they will convert back. And over time, they will gain more weight again to also shape legislation in their favor. So it's all a question of supporting what we want to see grow, eating what we want to keep. The smaller farmers are the ones who keep alive ancient breeds and ancient varieties also of plants that might be less productive, but that are just so important for biodiversity. Industries only work with a handful of breeds and a handful of plant varieties, the most productive ones. So support what you want to see grow and eat what you want to keep. You can help keep alive whole breeds of animals by eating individual animals. You can help prevent destructive wildfires that destroy a lot of life, insect, plant, animal, human, by buying animal produce from farmers that use the animals in order to clear mountains or riverbeds, so to reduce the risk of these destructive wildfires. So we have to think with a vision that is a bit wider than just, what things seem to be. You can contribute to killing without ever eating an animal if you eat food that has been produced in a way that degenerates soil health and soil fertility. Death is just unavoidable. And it's all about how we do things, which place we're coming from. But if we want to prevent just switching from left to right pocket in the industries, instead of buying their industrially produced milk, we now buy their industrially produced plant milk, or instead of their factory farm meat, we buy their GMO soy meat. That doesn't really change anything because it's still the same companies we are supporting. They own the same brands. For them, it's just another segment of the market. Oh, you don't want animal milk anymore? Well, here you have the plant milk, the soy milk. Great. The thing is about getting out of the industrial system, not just switching from left to right pocket. How do we do that? Knowing our farmer. Or raising our own animals, even better. And like that, truly understanding what that's about.